Culture Cosmos.
It's time for the State of Pro Wrestling, scheduled for one fall with a 60-minute time limit. And now, from parts unknown, your tag team champions of the world, John Orlando from the PVD Cast and Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back. Ding, ding, ding. 1, 2, 3. Another victory for us right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos and the PVD Cast, as it's the State of Pro Wrestling. It is, of course, Gerald Glassford, your resident heel, right here for you from the Pop Culture Cosmos. Please go ahead, make sure you like and subscribe, follow, do whatever it is you can to support all of our great shows, including the State of Pro Wrestling, PCC Multiverse, Pop Culture Cosmos, Inside Sports, Fantasy Football, plus also the ones John has on the side himself. I mean, my gosh, I run down almost my whole hand with my shows, and of course the Lakers Fast Break. I did run out my whole hand. My gosh.
I thought there was one missing because you rattled us off, and I'm like, that doesn't seem like that's the entire list.
We were just talking about the one. That's the one that's the most popular of all of them right now. So yes, go ahead and catch all my shows. Do what you can to support them, but also catch all the great shows that this man does, including Matt Talk and also the PVD Cast. Anything I not aware of?
Nope, that's it. Those are the only two.
Okay, it is our resident baby face, Mr. John Orlando. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well, Gerald. How are you?
Great. I want to say I'm still, basking in the glow from that previous special episode that we had just a little over a week ago. It's just great having Will on, talking about his thoughts on the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, your thoughts on the Wrestling Observer HOF. And I wanted to go ahead and say, they just don't have a clue. These voters absolutely don't have a clue because some of your picks and my picks, not only did they not get chosen, some of the picks we thought shouldn't be chosen did get chosen. But man, to not have enough votes for Sid Vicious, who was just off my ballot and on yours, Asuka, who I went on a diatribe for about 10 minutes trying to state her case, among others, they're not even eligible for return anytime soon because they didn't get enough votes to qualify. So I don't know. I honestly, I would just like to take a collective smack to the entire Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame voters right there, because I would just say, what the hell are you doing?
Okay, wait, you got to clue me in on something because I'm ignorant of something. So if you don't get voted in this time, you go back into
No, if you don't get a certain amount of votes, so the percentage of votes, just like the Hall of Fame for baseball.
Okay.
If you don't get a certain percentage of votes, then you fall off the ballot.
Okay. All right.
So Sid Vicious, Asuka, I don't know if they'll ever be put back on again or whatnot, but yeah, there were others, notable names as well, just not the left, that'll be left off the list. I mean, we had so many tag teams, the tag teams alone that we discussed that were Hall of Fame worthy that were ignored once again. I don't know. Again, I just have no clue what these people are thinking about because, for every, the guy, as far as the Young Bucks and, whoever else that they want to put in there as far as all the one-centric, type deal that probably are not deserving of being a Hall of Fame. There are many others that really revolutionized this industry at very, very hot periods of time that are not in it as well.
Yeah, it's puzzling. It's I think it's more puzzling because this is supposed to be the serious Hall of Fame. I mean, we all know that the WWE Hall of Fame is there's a lot of politics involved in who gets in and who doesn't get in and whatnot. So I guess I have this one in my mind as being, well, it's the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame. So this is supposed to be the quote smart fans, the educated fans, but yet when they make some silly picks, like again, Sid Vicious, how could he not be on this ballot when he was such a unique performer. Yeah, sure, he had some issues with always wanting to go play softball. Sure, he was unreliable at points, but the impact he made was pretty big. Did the Steiners fall off the ballot?
I don't think the Steiners fell off the ballot, but they didn't get voted in. Neither did like Hall and Nash, who were such a great part of the creation of the NWO and that hot period of time in the late 90s. Sid Vicious, you mentioned the Steiners, just so many. Goldberg.
Wow.
Uh,
Yeah, I forgot he was on the ballot, to be honest with you.
Yeah, as a drawing power. And then you have Roman Reigns go in, but you don't have Cody Rhodes go in. I think those guys, maybe you should have waited another 5 years before you would put them on the ballot personally because of their age. They're like in their mid-30s. But okay, whatever. Do what you need to do there. But yeah, just the man, it just gets me going, man. It just gets me irritated. The more I think about it, John, the less I like. Yeah. It really is so frustrating to see how the obvious is not so obvious when it comes to that Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame right now. It just you're getting your people in, you're conditioning your audience to be and react a certain way when you need to take a step outside and say, hey, this is what the industry is like now. This was what the industry is like over the past 20, 30 years. These are the individuals that helped define the industry for all these years, yet you choose to continually ignore them in favor of individuals that maybe are not deserving of the spot that you're putting them in.
Well, and I'll defend my first pick that we talked about, Sputnik Monroe. Sure, he's not a household name. Sure, he probably never made it to Madison Square Garden, but the man was a force to be reckoned with in Memphis as one of the biggest heels, and ended up turning babyface because of the anti, the anti activities of many of these people that were trying to hold down African Americans. I mean, you look outside the business, like that's a big, to me, that's big. That's a big statement that if you are, trying to help people who are being oppressed, who are not being treated fairly and whatnot, on top of being a great performer, how is he not in?
Again, I can't tell
Yeah,
you, man. It's
I
just
don't know.
the logic eludes me as far as I'm concerned. But I hope everyone out there that got a chance to listen to it, our thoughts on the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame with our picks. And also, I mentioned exactly the entire class that did get in. Please get a chance to check it out, or on YouTube as well, outside of just the regular audio sources for our podcast as well. But it is great to have you here, my friend. First and foremost, before I forget, I wanted to wish you and the family a happy Thanksgiving coming up. Turkey Day is always a special day for pro wrestling coming up. We always talk about the football that's going on, Black Friday deals that's going on, of course, the movies that are out right now, Gladiator 2, and of course, Moana 2 is coming out as well. And of course, Wicked, all lighting up the box office. But back in the day, my friend, it used to be about Starcade. It used to be about the beginnings of Survivor Series. And look how it's evolved now to Survivor Series still, my friend, but AEW Full Gear.
Well, first
Not
of all,
quite
that's
the same ring of it.
no, it doesn't. But I was gonna say, I hope that you have a great Thanksgiving, you and the family as well. And I'm gonna throw that out there because we'll get knee deep in some conversation. I'll totally forget about it.
Exactly, same here.
I used to count down when I was a kid. I had a chalkboard, and I would count down on Thanksgiving Day the hours to Survivor Series. Like it would start with 9 hours to Survivor Series. Then every hour I would deduct an hour, so I had my own little funky countdown, if you will, because that was such a big deal for me. The opportunity to, especially the 1 year that I got to go to my cousin's house and actually watch it live via satellite. I don't know if people even remember those, but the big giant dish that was in their yard could pull down the WWF pay-per-views. And so Survivor Series was always a special one for me. I like it. I don't know if it's my favorite because I really think that Royal Rumble, because of the way that they've been doing it with the surprises, I think is my favorite old school pay-per-view. But Survivor Series, it was just something about teams of 5 strive to survive, you know?
That's true. It was just something different, something novel. Also remember, that was one of the first title win for the Undertaker when he had that
Mhm.
4 or 5 day reign from Hulk Hogan. He was like so scary, so undefeatable to a lot of people. Just had that image and that aura, and then he won at the Survivor Series, and then lost it like 4 or 5 days later, Tuesday at Texas. I remember that, just like, okay, so why did you have him win in the first place if you're just going to go ahead and take it back? You totally like got rid of the aura that he had already coming into that match. But okay, that's just a armchair quarterback booking since then. So I'll just leave it at this. It is still a special time of the year for pro wrestling with Survivor Series. I'm glad to see them still doing something. And as we talk here, they will be having their show this weekend. But before we get into that, do you want to get into AEW Full Gear
Yeah,
first?
sure.
All right. And just as a reminder, on the back end of the show, John and I will get into Joshi Wrestling and also a Netflix special that John really wants you to see. And I didn't think it was half bad as well. So we'll go ahead and touch on that later on in the program. But AEW Full Gear just went by this past weekend as we're talking. Uh, just the usual standard, solid to really good wrestling fare, sometimes even great matches. But the booking, again, is just, if you try to go ahead and interpret it, it'll just make you have a headache. And I don't want the headache. All I know is that there was no chance Orange Cassidy was going to win the title away from John Moxley. And anybody who would think that is absolutely kidding themselves because of all the TV time. And I'm going to take over the Superstation and whatever he's doing right now with his latest gimmick with his crew, with his faction that's out there. Your thoughts on AEW Full Gear to start off with? John Moxley reigning supreme. Daniel Garcia, who I still think, again, I don't know if, it's a great story from independent wrestler to where he is now. But I mean, just seeing him, I think he just needs to get in better shape, I think, to go ahead and help promote his brand going forward. That's just a personal opinion. I just think that's something I think you need to see when you're that size of an individual. I think you need to really be in tip-top shape, and I'm not sure if that's the case, but that's just me. He won the TNT title, so the fans of the AEW are right behind him on that, so that's good to see. I'll give him a compliments on that. After that, it was just a lot of the champions winning their titles, keeping their titles, and not being able to having to give them up. So, your thoughts on AEW Full Gear to get us started for today's show?
I thought Full Gear was not bad, to be honest with you. I think that there were some really good highlights. I think the opening match on the pre-show, actually the first 2 matches on the pre-show, I thought were really good. Anna Jay and defeating Deonna Purrazzo. I think that was a solid opener. And I really think that 4-way match was really, really good too. And I'm oftentimes not a fan of multi-man matches because they tend to be just no psychology and they just go crazy. I think this one had a little bit of that psychology to it, but still was plenty crazy with some high spots. I thought it was a fun way to open the show. And then leading into the show itself, I think that MJF and Roderick Strong was really good, but I feel that he's going back to the movie set. So where does this leave Roderick Strong? Where does it leave this feud? Are they going to put this feud on hold again so that Adam Cole can have some type of blow off with MJF or what? That's a big question
that
mark
whole
in my
storyline, going back to the Devil storyline that they had, that was just a waste of time. Anybody who was part of it really wasted their time. That's just one thing where you drew it up on the whiteboard. Adam Cole got his injury, threw everything off, and because of it, it served to help no one. In the end,
mind.
this will serve to help no one, my friend.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, heck of a match. I really liked it. I thought it was maybe if I was to pick my favorite match on the show, I would probably pick this one. But yeah, the bigger picture, it really didn't do anything. For the then and the now of watching it on pay-per-view, great match. But yeah, again, just kind of where do we go from here? So I thought that was probably my favorite. My other gripe that I have, and this is where I may rant just for a few minutes.
Okay.
I don't understand the need to bring in this AJ guy with Big Justice and the Rizzler. Like
the Costco guys.
The Costco guys. Okay. My question is, like, maybe I'm just out of the loop of things. I think I'm not that far out of the loop, but I don't know who these people are.
Social media does.
I know.
With hundreds of millions of followers.
And I don't know. It just makes me maybe jealous. Maybe I'm jealous. Maybe I am that I work so hard and you work so hard on our respective content, and some goofy folks go to Costco and they get millions of viewers, and I don't get it. And to me, this reeked of when WCW would bring in Karl Malone and Jay Leno and David Arquette, and
don't forget RoboCop.
How can I forget RoboCop? It reeks of like desperation to get eyes on your product. And again, let's focus on really what people want. They want that emotional connection with their heroes that they're watching in the ring. And the booking has not provided that one iota.
It just doesn't tell a good story at this
No.
point in time. I feel bad because we're now lumped into all those podcasts, all those shows that talk smack on AEW. And it doesn't feel good for me to always talk smack on it. But again, despite the fact that they have they have a higher level of quality of wrestling on that show than WWE, I think anybody can see that. I get that. I work harder. Not necessarily work smarter, but they work harder on that show per match, if you talk about that. Okay. The thing is, though, the storytelling is such a turnoff for me. It's not. At one time, AEW, I gave it a shot week after week, but they've lost me, except for the big shows, because the simple fact is they just don't tell a good story. No storyline that they have has been told that the good story in a long time, since MJF and CM Punk, dare I say, for me. Maybe you could say the Adam Page, Swerve Strickland. I liked the burning house thing, and then but it got into a match where it just was just a freak show as far as a house, trying to put the hypodermic needle and all that. That was unnecessary. That was not. I mean, I get that they hate each other, and the fact is that Adam Page won the third match instead of winning the second match, and then it was supposed to have been a rubber match. Just the logic sometimes, just simple things, it just bothers me. And it gets to the point where AEW is just so unfun to watch at times, despite the fact that they have just a good quality of wrestling overall, John. The end product is not the problem in most cases. It's the problem of telling a story is just so bad at times that it's just detracts from the product. And, that's why that they're in the rating situation that they're currently in, John.
Well, I will give them credit. I think that they've done a fairly decent job of creating the storyline for Swerve and Bobby Lashley. And I think they did a great job with that match as well at Full Gear.
Okay.
I think it was the correct way to go.
Okay.
You have to put over Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, because they're the force, they're the entity that's coming in there. I would not have put Swerve Strickland in with them right away.
Nope.
I would have had to get them some dominating matches first to put them in a higher light and to grow them into a main, because they have the potential of being a main event group.
Mm-hmm.
But again, they wanted to put them right away into Swerve. I think I would have waited off on that maybe another month or two before you go down that road. But yeah, that either which way, again, I think the Hurt Business can provide some business for AEW, but we'll see if they ruin it or not. Ricochet, he comes in here says comments in regular interviews saying he wants to be AEW World Champion. He comes in there, a lot of momentum. We're all excited to see him in some great matches. He had kind of an okay match against Takeshita and Ospreay. He had that weird finish where they double pinned each other. It's just not been good for Ricochet because he's just not been booked right. I know he's not the strongest on the mic, but a guy with that kind of superior athletic talent, now that he's in his mid-30s, you got to book a lot better as well.
Oh, agreed with that. And here would be a way to help out Ricochet with his weaknesses. Why not have a manager? Why not have a valet that can speak for him? Somebody that is confident. We haven't seen
his
that.
wife wanted to be a manager in the WWE. Hello?
You said it before I got a chance to say it.
Sorry.
No,
I didn't mean to steal your WCW thunder.
No, but I mean, it makes sense. Like, we don't see that with we haven't seen a strong babyface manager. I mean, Nana started off as a heel, but now he's become, much like we've talked about in the past, Swerve, obviously, they were smart enough that the fans dug Swerve and Nana enough to put them as, quote, baby faces, end quote. But prior to Nana, I can't think of too many, babyface managers that could come in and help somebody like Ricochet out with his interviews and whatnot.
Well, again, it's just something I think that it's just very hard for a lot of people to get into because the storytelling is so haphazard. And with the faction now of Jon Moxley and crew, is at the very top. We've seen Jon Moxley before at the head of the table, to use the WWE pun, as a champion. I'm hoping that this tenure for him will work out better, and we'll see how it goes from there. But yeah, the Young Bucks, that whole thing with the Elite, that did nothing for anyone. So we'll see what happens. But AEW's just not right now having that kind of momentum heading into 2025, my friend.
Well, and I'd like to throw one other thing out real quick that they teased at Full Gear. If they break up the Acclaimed, I will be very disappointed. I feel like, especially over the last year, maybe the Acclaim has become a footnote in the tag team division, and I don't understand why, because they still are very entertaining. They're, Max Caster's decent in the ring. I mean, clearly Anthony Bowens is the better of the two workers, but they are a hot commodity, and I feel like they should not break them up. I'm just throwing it out there. They're one of the few bright spots, something I look forward to when I tune into AEW programming, is the Acclaim being on my TV.
So with that, my friend, it is, of course, the state of pro wrestling. It is John Orlando from the PVD Cast and Matt Talk, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching us. We truly appreciate it. My friend, before we head to the half-hour break, I wanted to go ahead and touch on your thoughts on Survivor Series. Again, the War Games match with the Bloodline, that, despite our fact that may have gotten along in the tooth as far as the storytelling, people are still into it.
Yeah.
People still want to see it. People still want to talk about it. And it looks like Seth Rollins is out and CM Punk is in. And he talked about recently about how he wasted some of his matches in AEW against talent that he didn't think was worth it. Well, he must think this is worth it because he's in War Games coming up here this weekend. Your thoughts on War Games for both men and women on both sides coming up for Survivor Series for this weekend?
Why are they both War Games? Why can't we just do a traditional Survivor Series setup? Why?
Hello?
I mean, yeah, in fact, I want to say up until last week, I thought it was just because I'll be honest, I haven't watched Raw or SmackDown. I've read a little bit, but I haven't watched them in a couple of weeks. And I was like, wait, they're War Games matches? Why? Like, I mean, I especially with the women, because the women's War Games seems like it's haphazardly thrown together. And where at least the men's, there's that ongoing storyline, that the Bloodline is going to be battling against the new Bloodline, and Punk has that connection to Paul Heyman, and that kind of all makes sense. And I could see War Games for that, fine. But the women's just seems like people are just thrown in there. And I'm like, I don't know. I hope that they do some more build for it tonight, as we are actually live during Raw right now. But hopefully they'll do some things to set that up a little bit better. And we don't have that many matches right now, so the only thing we have so far booked is the 2 War Games match and the world title with Gunther and Priest.
Game. Well, that's coming up though. Saturday night's main event to be rumored. So that's. But you're right. It may actually be also on Survivor Series as well. So yeah, if that's the case, yeah, also as well rumored to be at Saturday night's main event, which is coming up mid-December, if I'm not mistaken. That is going to have Cody Rhodes, and that was announced, by the way. Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. That was the announced match. The other expected match is Gunther against Damian Priest. So we'll see what happens as far as I'm concerned. But yes, I believe you are right. That match is also with Gunther on the Survivor Series as well. But yeah, just go to a tradition. Just go back to the traditional thing. It would have worked. It's not like they do an overdose of blood anyways on their shows as well at this point in time. WWE. Just the regular show. The regular 4-on-4 tag team would have sufficed for both sides.
Right. And first of all, I don't like how they do War Games to begin with. Now, I mean, I don't like it. I know that I'm probably, I'm the old school Mark, but I mean, I like the original version of War Games. This version, I'm not a big fan of.
Yeah, correct. It is Gunther versus Damian Priest in Survivor Series, but it's also rumored to be taking place as well as second match between the two at, of course, Saturday night's main event. When that returns as a quarterly event for NBC, that's the one I'm really excited about. It's the return of that as well. But Survivor Series, we'll see what happens. But yeah, looking forward to seeing how this lays out. Again, the storytelling, for those that have been watching this for now 3+ years of the bloodline, there should be some fatigue that sets in, but it's still worth it. It's still good to see them. We haven't even thrown in the equation of The Rock back into this, so we don't know which side he will eventually lean on in this bloodline civil war type deal. So we'll see how that works itself out. Then you have Bronson Reed, CM Punk thrown in there for the War Games. On the ladies' side, like you said, it's a mishmash of all the different top contenders and also the top 2 champions on each side. It's still Survivor Series, but I don't feel like it's Survivor Series before we head to the break, my friend.
No, I agree.
How that feel?
I agree. I mean, the mere fact that we have like 3 things to talk about, and we're 4 days away from the pay-per-view.
Yeah.
I just, or PLE, excuse me, PLE. I keep again showing my age. Yeah, I just doesn't feel quite like the same Survivor Series that I loved as a kid and would write down hours till Survivor Series on my chalkboard.
So right now it is Roman Reigns, the Usos, Sami Zayn, and CM Punk versus the Bloodline 2.0, Solo Sikoa, Jacob Fatu, Tamatanga and Tongoloa, and Bronson Reed, and also Zo for the ladies, Rhea Ripley, Bianca Belair, Naomi, Io Sky, and Bayley versus the Judgment Day, Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez, Nia Jax, Tiffany Stratton, and Candice LeRae. Tell us your thoughts. Are you excited for what comes up with Survivor Series? Or are you excited for what just happened at AEW Full Gear? Please let us know your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, 1/2 hour down, 1/2 hour to go here on the show. Truly appreciate you joining us again. It is John Orlando from the PVD Cast, along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching this. Truly appreciate it. I do want to go ahead and mention that Netflix had a show. It came out around the time of Mr. McMahon, and I know all the spotlight went to Mr. McMahon. I understand that. I get that. And in many ways, I was so eager to watch it, but in many ways, I was maybe regretting my decision of going ahead being so eager to see it because of the fact that it was what it was. I mean, I already knew what was going on. There was nothing behind the scenes, nothing I saw that was like, wow, man, it was really worth my time to watch this. But it was still solid, nonetheless, excellently produced, really solid watch. But again, doesn't tell you anything if you're a longtime fan behind the scenes that you really need to go out of where you see. But it is what it is. But coming around that time was the Queen of Villains, a dramatized story of the beginnings of one of the greatest female wrestlers of the 90s, the 80s, I'm sorry, the 80s, 90s, and also into 2000s. She still works today on occasion. So, yes, absolutely. Looking forward to seeing everyone's thoughts out there if they go ahead and give it a chance. But, John, please tell us why you think The Queen of Villains is a good watch. I liked it too. I think you will too.
I think it's a great biopic on somebody that maybe a lot of wrestling fans don't know about. Like, I learned a lot, but I did have a gripe, and a pretty big gripe. Is it felt like episodes 3 and 4 were just padded out. I mean, I understand that you have to add drama to biopics and to make them more interesting. I understand that you have to exaggerate, you have to add in stuff. But this one just seemed to kind of bring in drama that I felt was very unnecessary. Like the reasons for the drama was very unnecessary, and it just bogged down the story. I think that if they had the producers kept this a much tighter script and maybe just had a 2.5 hour movie, that would be better than this, because I mean, it was 4 1 hour episodes, and then episode 5 was 90 minutes. And just episodes 3 and 4, I was like, it was losing me. However, though, as I did say, I learned a lot of things, and it made me even more curious to know a little bit more about Joshi wrestling, which is when you pitched the idea, Gerald, of sitting down and talking about it, I was all for it, because if I can expand my knowledge on wrestling, that's a good thing, according to me, in my mind.
That was such a classic era, though, my friend.
Yeah.
One things I regret is I didn't have enough knowledge. I didn't have enough access. The tapes from I was going to a local Japanese store at that time in California, and I was getting, weekly stuff from All Japan, man, and not realizing there were so many things that you could have gotten as far as the ladies during that time, because yes, it was the Jumping Bomb Angels, it was the singing and the pop star mentality for much of the reasons, and the teenage girls going to see the events almost, in a smaller fashion, like Taylor Swift today.
Mm-hmm.
To equate it, but that kind of craze, they were that crazy, that emotional. But the thing is, those women, if you watch those matches, which are all, a lot of them are available on YouTube, they are as hardcore, they are as all out, and those ladies work their butts off just as hard as anyone in AEW, WWE, or independent scene today does. They killed themselves. They would go from pile driving on tables to blood, literally all the time. I mean, before ECW was hardcore, John, I'm going to tell you, Joshi was hardcore as well.
Oh, no doubt. In my research, I found that was one of the reasons, with the hard hitting style, that was one of the reasons why it had to, the whole idea of Joshi wrestling had to shake off this idea of vulgarity. Like, the Japanese society looked at it as being a vulgar type of sport. And I think that to me, again, looking outside of the ring, as we talked about before, when we talked about the Hall of Fame, you're great inside the ring. What do you do outside of the ring? What do you do to push forth the sport? And, a lot of these women, I mean, whether you're talking about the Bull Nakanos or the Jackie Satos and the Crush girls.
Manami
Toyota. Yeah. Those women worked incredibly hard to live up to a standard that was set for the men, and by far many of them achieved it and cleared that hurdle.
I'll tell you what, though, my friend, it is just So many great memories of watching. So so many great memories.
Well, one thing I discovered that I did not really know while doing some research for this segment, I didn't
Yeah.
realize that there were Americans who had come over, like Mildred Burke did a tour of Japan, and that's kind of one of the reasons that Joshi became popular. Because I mean, let's be honest, Mildred Burke was one of the great female wrestlers of all time. She was very, very good at what she did, and the fact that she was the total package. She had the looks, she had the ability, she had the charisma. Definitely, she was an outstanding performer. And then also Red the Fabulous Moolah spent some time over there in '68. She had a match on Japanese television that drew like a 22. The 22% of the homes were watching that, which at that point is a big number. Especially for Japanese women's wrestling. So I think that was, to me, something. And again, I said my goal was to learn a little bit more about Joshi wrestling, something that I'm not completely familiar with. And those two factoids kind of made me really made me take a step back and go, wow, this was a big thing. If you had people like Fabulous Moolah and Mildred Burke coming from the States, coming over to Japan to entertain the Japanese fans.
Sounds good, my friend. So I just wanted to go ahead and say again, period of time, that period of time was just so memorable to me. Again, the fact that these were ladies that were just willing to go ahead and do so much in the ring, and they worked harder than anyone. And I'll tell you what, I was just so very, very blessed to go ahead and catch it when I did, because I started catching in the 90s, my friend. I started getting some tapes, and I started getting some really, really good stuff as far as. So I'll just say it's just, man, those memories are just take me back. It was just so good to see. So I will gladly go and revisit again anytime, my friend, as far as on YouTube. And I'll tell you what, when I go watch those matches, man, those bloody hair pulling, fighting matches, I see the scars, I see the black eyes, I see these they went all out, John. Just they pulled no stop. No stops.
Oh yeah, there was the infamous. I know it's floated around YouTube and social media and whatnot. The Bull Nakano leg drop from the top of the cage. That in itself was like, you got it. That's a great way to break a tailbone. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
but going back to the biopic, um, again, it's worth viewing. I would not say it is not worth your time, but just be aware that, at least in my humble opinion, it bogs down a little bit in the season or episode 3 and episode 4, which unfortunately I think a
But
lot of
you
TV
have to
shows.
say that series was dramatized. I mean, it's like any series, man. It's called about it's dramatizing. It's making you're extending it out and Hollywoodizing it for all the world to see, and you're going to go ahead and shape it beyond what actually took place just to make it look better in front of an audience.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, again, I would recommend it. You'll learn a lot of stuff. You'll see a very good performance from, and I forget the young lady's name who plays Dump Matsumoto, but she
I'll
did
get that for you.
okay. She did a very good job. I will say that the transformation when they walk all the way through that story and whatnot, very well done.
Okay. Well, again, let me go ahead and do the best of compliments on that. Again, I thought it was really good. Urian Retriever, just to let you know.
Okay. All right.
Shibuya Nagoyo, also from that era, was just again. I love the fact that they Linus Asuka, just so many great names from that period of time. If people want to go ahead and check it out, and that's the thing. That's one of the great things about YouTube. I know we talk a lot about social media. I know how people hate social media, like social media, but since the advent of this type of world we live in, one of the greatest things that we have seen come out of it is YouTube, where you can relive television history from decades before, my friend. That's one of the things you can do. You could type in fact, I will do it right now. I can't do it on the air because YouTube will probably. One of the bad things is they'll copyright me when I do this. But type in Joshi Wrestling. Just type in Joshi Wrestling on there and see what you get. And you see just the match after match after match, whether it's recent or it's not so recent, whether it's older, whether it's younger matches, whether it's newer stars or whether it's old stars, you will see that this is the type of wrestling, my friend, that you may want to get into if you haven't already.
Can I ask real quick, like, who are some of the female wrestlers currently that you like, Gerald?
Currently,
Yeah.
uh,
Do you have any? Do
well,
you have any?
you know Asuka. Well, whenever she comes back from her knee injury, I think she is still, obviously one of the best in the world to me. Io Sky, I think does a great job. Rhea Ripley, how can you not say she's a fantastic wrestler in and of herself? I mean, she's going to be defining this industry for the next decade. I think anybody who is, I guess, saying otherwise has got to just understand that she is going to be the force. She's big, she's strong, she's agile, she's young still, John, and she still has many years left to dominate this industry. I mean, Charlotte Flair, uh, Becky Lynch, who was also did not get voted into the Wrestling Observer Hall of Fame, to add on top of it as well. So, just again, my friend, so many great names, but back then for me it was all about Manami Toyota, Shigusa Nagoyo, Jump Matsumoto. Just so many great names. I love going ahead and watching the old matches, whether it took place at Korakuen Hall or the Tokyo Dome. There were some pretty excellent matches to watch, and I look forward to hopefully catching more. Because I've only just cracked just the door open myself. I've only seen over the years, a few dozen, maybe even maybe 100 matches. Uh, that's just the tip of the iceberg, my friend. There's so many great matches in the world of Joshi that it just seems to be absolutely is uh, going well, my friend. How's that? Is that a little better?
Yeah, that's better. That's
Okay.
better.
Yes. Mic drops on me, and then I got to go ahead and adjust it up, because it's dropping on me. That's the only flaw with this one right here. But yes, I can say right now that just I've only watched, like, let's say 100 matches of Joshi. I feel like that's just the tip of the iceberg because it defined decades of Joshi wrestling, my friend. And I just can't wait to see a whole lot more of what's out there.
Since we're talking about Japanese wrestling real quick, I kind of was, again, immersed in doing a lot of research. And I would like to jump to the men's side for a moment, if I could. Um, One thing that I did not realize, and I think that when it comes to Japanese wrestling, I knew a lot because of the aftermags and because, especially in the 90s when WCW was bringing a lot of Jushin Thunder Liger over and all those folks that were coming.
Mhm.
But doing some research, I did not realize that Ricky Dozan was murdered.
You did not know that?
No, I did not know that. I was stunned to kind of read the story about how that happened.
And he wasn't even Japanese, even though he is the defining wrestler in Japanese and wrestling history. He is not even Japanese of origin. That's the thing that blew me away. First off, again, but we cannot underestimate ever his importance to professional wrestling. He is one of just from a important standpoint, from a business and important standpoint, John. Rikodo-san, I think, defined Japanese wrestling for what it is even today. But the hot period for Japanese wrestling in the '80s, the '90s, and the first decade of the 2000s. Because that's when realistically you look at it now, John. Japanese wrestling was hot during
Mm.
those 3 decades. He in back in the '50s and '60s when he was performing in front of on an audience of 50 million people, I believe, was some of his matches went as far as on TV. Yeah, like garnering 70 to 75% of the audience share on television. Gaudy numbers like that. Yeah, he, he helped define what Japanese pro wrestling is all about, and his importance should never be understated, John.
Yeah, agreed. Like I said, I knew he had passed on, but I did not know that he was murdered. And so to me, that was like an eye opening fact that I discovered about him. But yeah, you can't. I mean, he sets it all up in place. I mean, if there's no Ricky Dozen, then there's no Baba, there's no Inoki, there's no All Japan, New Japan. And then you look at all those stars that have come out from those two camps, whether you're talking about Saruta or you're talking about Kawada, Misawa, all those folks.
Great
It was
Muda,
Great Muda. Thank you. How can I forget the Great Muda? Vader.
Inoki, like you said, Tenru, just all those
Oh
great,
yeah.
all that Japanese wrestling that came after the legend of Rikoto-san. Yeah, it just absolutely. Just, I mean, he. It's like when you go to the U.S. What can you say? Luthez did that. Can you say Bruno Sammartino to an extent did that? You could try and work your way through it. It's not as definitive, but in Japan, you could definitely say it started with Rikoto-san. In Mexico, where would you go with him? Where would you go there? Where'd you go with it?
Ooh. I wow. I say you have to go El Santo, right? I mean,
Elson, yes.
El Santo's got to be it. I mean,
How many movies did he appear in?
he appeared in a lot of movies.
Yeah.
And as a side note, I have a few on DVD and they're great. They are so fun to watch. Like just when I want just something to just entertain me, I will pop in a couple of those El Santo films. And again, they're hokey, they're campy, but gosh darn it, they are fun. They bring a smile to my face. But yeah,
But
El
his
Santo.
stardom propelled Lucha Libre to that point. So you could actually find those two individuals as some of the most historic individuals in this pro wrestling, not for maybe their work rate or match quality. You don't look at it that, but for their
Mm-mm.
importance to the industry on what they were doing to garner popularity for their respective countries.
I mean, well, think about how many people showed up when El Santo passed away. Like
Yeah.
it was as if like the president of Mexico had died. Like that's how much hoopla, that's how much respect, that's how much whatever you want to say was given to El Santo. I mean, yeah, definitely I think you have to say that name when you were talking about Mexican wrestling, lucha libre.
Once again, it is John Orlando for the PVD cast along with me, Gerald Glassford. Thanks again for watching, listening. Truly appreciate it. So, John, I mean, if we went into Japanese wrestling now, we would be here talking till the end of time, seemingly, because again, especially that period of 80s, especially the 90s as far as Japanese wrestling and the 2000s, especially like 2000 to 2005, 2006, I'd probably say that's when you had your match quality there. I think it's so coincidental that, that was the period of time when Misawa, Kobashi, some of the other great names, Taui, just so many other great names that were there really just rock the world with their incredible 4 or 5-star matches. I mean, you could talk about Inoki, Giant Baba, as far as how they worked into the industry, how popular they were, John, from a popularity standard. Work rate, you would probably go into some of the classic matches in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s as far as defining Japanese wrestling. And again, if we did that, we could be here all night. But before we go ahead into the pitch that John Orlando must give you his promo for his shows, just real briefly. One of these days, we'll have a big episode on Japanese wrestling. One of these days.
Okay.
But for us right now, what are what's your greatest memory of Japanese wrestling?
Oh, hands down, for me, I think it was Jushin Thunder Liger. Like learning about him and then seeing him in WCW. Um, because he had several stints in WCW, if I recall correctly. He had
back and forth. Yeah, a lot of that is based off of getting visas,
yeah.
travel, things like that. Yeah, working relationships. Sometimes they go away with certain individual groups, like what they do all the time in Mexico. Mexico sometimes works with U.S. groups, sometimes they don't. They align themselves with certain actions, the WWF or AEW. It's again sometimes it's inside, outside the ring politics. So yes, Jushin Thunder Liger did have several stops in America, but I don't think they always saw. There was some best. There was some good against Brian Pillman.
Hmm.
Some other great matches as well he had, but the most great matches you could see of him probably are not were not in this country. Most of them were in Japan when it comes to
I was going to interrupt you and say that I think, if I remember correctly, I saw recently Brad Armstrong against Jushin Thunder Liger, and that
yes.
was a fantastic match. Because I think Brad, just as a side note, I think Brad Armstrong is one of the most underrated wrestlers ever, hands down. Like he's number one. Yeah, I would say that certainly for me, I think Jushin Thunder Liger, seeing Big Van Vader in the after mags, that made an impression on me. And then we didn't. How can we have a talk about Japanese wrestling and not mention the Gaijin? You have Brody and Hanson and Gordy and Dr. Death and I know I'm missing some Dynamite Kid.
You had the Funks.
Yeah, Abdullah the Butcher. You have all the Gaijins that came in and were as equally as, if not maybe more important than the homegrown talent, because you needed the homegrown talent to have a monster to overcome. And I feel like some of those, the Gaijin certainly deserve a tip of the hat as well for their part, and it's a very important part in Japanese wrestling.
I just think when it comes to Japanese wrestling right now, it's not near where it once was.
No,
I think if anybody wants to say otherwise, they're kidding themselves. Japanese wrestling, as far as the number of factions, the number of companies, the number of talented wrestlers, the number of great wrestlers, it's not what it once was. But that's not to say there isn't still a good product that's over there, because there is still a good product that's over there. People should go out of their way to see it. But again, it's not like the old days. I think people trying to revisit those old days where it was New Japan versus All Japan on a weekly basis, and you had to go ahead and collect the tapes to catch the weekly episodes. It's not what it once was. This already has turned out into a pseudo Japanese wrestling show in itself.
it did. It did. Well, I'm going to agree with you real quick, and this is probably a hot take that might make some people upset. I think I was a huge fan, and still am, but a much bigger fan of New Japan, a few years ago, 4 or 5, 6 years ago, pre-pandemic, when you were getting the Ospreys and Ricochets, and you were getting Naito and Tanahashi, and you were getting those classic matchups. I think now New Japan, personally, to me, is not the same because
They just don't have the talent. They don't have the drawing cards at the top that, just are. I mean, Zack Sabre Jr., great technical wrestler, but is he a known product anywhere else in the world?
Yeah.
It's not really.
Yeah.
Uh, and all the other top wrestlers in Japan, the Japanese wrestlers, many of those are over the hill or have seen a lot of bumps on their bump card.
Yeah, and I also feel like they've spread themselves out in having, and I know this is where probably the hot take will infuriate some people. I don't see why they need to be in America. I just don't. I think that by having that faction of people that work for the U.S. company, the Strong Company, I believe is what it's referred to as, right? New Japan Strong. I just feel like it dilutes the talent pool. And when you're already having enough problems trying to get somebody to the top, whether it's a Naito who's still there, or it's a Zack Sabre Jr., or it's a Clark Connors or a Gabe Kidd, like you're already having enough trouble trying to place one of them at the top, and then you have to split your roster and have some over in America and over in Japan. And I don't know. It's not the same to me. I think that New Japan's in a slump, and I don't even know what All Japan's doing because they kind of have.
Well, now you have also on the ladies' side, and then Marigold coming
You're
in
right.
there. The major decisions and the reason why Japanese wrestling a part of the reason I say that, but it's probably the major reason. It's because of talent. Like I said, the talent is just not there because the talent is leaving there.
Hmm.
The talent it started with Asuka. I always goes back to Asuka. I understand I'm a mark for Asuka. I get that. I understand that. But the fact is, it speaks for itself. Her body of work speaks for itself. But the fact is, she was the first one, when you think about it, John, to take her talents full time to America in this past decade. To
Hmm.
take her talents to the WWE and say, you know what, I'm going to give it a shot. I'm going to go in there full time. No coming back, forth, working a couple months here, a month there, or a couple matches here. But like even still some of the AEW ladies do today. No, going to come in there full time and see what I do. And she's prospered. So that led to Kyrie Sane, Io Sky, Shinsuke Nakamura.
Hmm.
All those individuals have come in there and succeeded themselves to varying levels. So it just tells you where they're. You could call it chasing the money. You could call it chasing success. Do whatever you want to say, say whatever you want to say about it. It's there and it speaks for itself. And more Japanese stars, because the way that Japanese wrestling is right now, where it's not as strong, are just going to go ahead and continue to do that. The best Japanese wrestlers are probably still, for the most part, going to do the same thing, John.
Hmm. Yeah, like I said, Japan has the same problem that America has, is that I feel like our American companies at times don't build contenders, don't build characters, and so I think they're in that same rough spot right now. And who knows? Maybe it'll turn around. Maybe we'll find somebody that lights the country on fire, so to speak, and they'll be packing that Tokyo Dome every January, excuse me. Which again, oh my, I just realized that we're not too far away from Wrestle
Not too
Kingdom,
far. Not too
right?
far.
And it's a 2-night event, isn't it?
Yep. But
Okay.
again, you won't have Gilia there because she went to NXT as well. So there you go.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh well.
But my friend, it's been great talking to you as always. Once again, it is the state of pro wrestling along with Gerald Glassford. It is John Orlando. But before we head on out, John Orlando, you need to go ahead and tell everybody what's cooking at the PVD cast. And of course, the show of shows, the, is of course Matt Talk. So go ahead and let us know what Matt Talk and the PVD cast have in mind upcoming.
Well, the PVD cast can be found at pvdcast.com or wherever you find great podcasting outlets. Yeah, if you have a favorite app that you like to use, I'm sure the PVD cast is on there. Just put it in the search bar. Sometimes you have to put John Orlando after it. I don't know why, but that's just how it is. But you can do that. Definitely please rate and review and subscribe and recommend the PVD cast if you like what you hear. Currently, I have an interview with an independent comic book creator from Columbus, Ohio, who has one name, Raw. That's right. He's like Sting, but it's a different name. So, um, but he's got quite a unique style, and definitely it was a fun conversation to have with him. And then Matt Talk, as I lamented to Gerald off air, Matt Talk was supposed to be out this week, but unfortunately, due to internet difficulties, it's being rescheduled. But if you want to hear myself and my partner Jason talk about the 80s television show Matlock with Andy Griffith, this is the podcast for you. We take a look at each and every episode through the seasons. We're right now just started season 6, so we have a couple more seasons left to go. But basically, we watch an episode, we review it, we critique it, we even poke fun at it when necessary, and it's fun. So, and we appreciate everybody checking out Matt Talk, because long story short, it was started off as a joke, and it's snowballed into a wonderful thing. So there you go. Again, PVD Cast and Matt Talk. You can find Matt Talk, by the way, on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook, a bunch of different other sites. Simply go to Matt Talk Podcast on Facebook, and you can find all the links there.
Is it Kathy Bates approved?
It is not Kathy Bates approved yet.
Okay. That's why I'm sure. Okay. Just want to let you know that show is garnering about 5 to 7 million viewers every week.
Oh,
So.
I know, and I'm behind by a couple of episodes. I need to get caught up because it
All
is
right.
good.
May want to integrate it into your show to get those fans. Just saying.
there's some things in the works that may happen. That's all I can say. That's a scoop for you.
And on that note, all right. Once again, it is John Orlando from the PPD Cast. Check him out there, and also Matt Talk as well. Well, John, it's been great having you on the show. Again, safe travels and safe time for you and your family this Thanksgiving. Safe travels and safe time for everyone out there this Thanksgiving weekend as well. Enjoy your movies, your television, your turkey, your Black Friday, but also don't forget to enjoy your pro wrestling as well. And we'll see you next month right here on the State of Pro Wrestling from the PPD Cast, Matt Talk, and of course, right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. Ding, ding, ding. 1, 3. Match over. It's time for the State of Pro Wrestling, scheduled for one fall with a 60-minute time limit. And now, from parts unknown, your tag team champions of the world, John Orlando from the PVD Cast and Gerald Glassford from the Pop Culture Cosmos.